Adam from Indiana. We could have some fun by claiming that the Ron DeSantis announcement was AI because we can't see his face. That could be cool. Interesting. Edit 1977. DeSantis has nothing if he doesn't lean into COVID, while Trump is attempting to shift blame and stop the COVID combo and start the real gloves off attacks because DeSantis needs to start jabbing back and it can't be COVID.
I kind of think that there is like when DeSantis has COVID, what I think me and the IM mean by that is like the small businesses who thought it was authoritarianism that they weren't allowed to force fry cooks to you make burgers during a novel virus.
But he's not even going to attack Trump. I just saw that he said in an interview with Clay and Buck that he would
Travis Buck Sexton,
he would consider pardoning Donald Trump if he wins in 2024 for January 6th.
Kneel.
That's it, but that is almost
lick that boot.
Yeah, but like it's kind of an attack on Trump too, because it's like it like puts him in a position of authority, and look at how magnanimous he is. But also, this guy's a criminal who needs my help. Like he's gonna need to attack Trump somehow.
I think when Trump gets on stage and plays the hits, look at these losers. Look at how successful a businessman I am. They cheated me. I think that the Republicans aren't going to have much else to say.
Absolutely.
I think that like ultimately what has changed, how is COVID different than, functionally really than 9/11 and how he used that to cudgel Jeb Bush into submission. Like they're just not a likable bunch of people. And he's like the only one of their politicians who can meme. So they're just like the fact that Ron DeSantis wanted to take this fight to social media shows how unprepared he is for this situation. Totally. He should have been relying solely on real world billionaires for like money and exposure and just keeping him in the race for as long as possible, like Newt Gingrich. But going to Twitter to remind people who they would prefer on Twitter doing this, like, come on.
Yeah, to your point, Duber writes in, I think my independent-y friend would love that Trump video. High energy, lots of confidence, seems fun. That can work with checked out voters.
Did you see Ron DeSantis's campaign website too? Like the dude had all this time to get something set up. And at first, when it first launched, it was just a WinRed, which is like the Republican version of Act Blue, WinRed donation page. There was no Ron DeSantis actual website. But then late last night, they actually launched the website, and it looks like a thrown together like Tumblr page.
Yeah.
It's so bad. They had all this time, and it's so bad.
So bad. So bad. Midi Doctor says first half stream still open. I don't think so.
Not.
Yeah.
It was, but also, DeSantis also mentioned Bitcoin, and I'll say this about anybody promoting Bitcoin right now.
We'll get into that.
Oh, we do? Okay.
We have it. Right. Well, you want to just save it for, let's just do it now.
Okay, yeah.
So Jimmy Dore loves Bitcoin, apparently. He spoke with this guy, Mark Keiser, who
Max Keiser.
Max Keiser, right. This is someone who I believe Sam has referenced in the past as a gold bug of old.
He's an old school libertarian. He used to have a show on RT back when RT was still a thing here in the United States. He's been a big Bitcoin guy for a very, very long time. Apparently, Shocker. If I recall correctly, he's the guy who helped Alex Jones get into it. So yeah, he's been one of those guys for a while.
And he's speaking about crypto here, which it's just incredible. Like anybody that's advocating for cryptocurrency at this point, you just understand that they must have some sort of financial incentive.
Yeah, there's an angle. They're either invested in. I mean, there's a small number of completely disinterested morons who think it's the future for some reason still. But like mostly, it's people who are sitting on a bunch and want to see the price go back up and unload it, like or money launderers.
It's pump and dump stuff.
It's speculators and money laundering criminals, as far as I'm concerned.
Just as far as the DeSantis thing goes too, like I think it's really a bad idea to make Bitcoin or crypto a part of your platform a year and a half out from any voting, because you have no idea where Bitcoin will be. Like it's there is a possibility.
I thought it hit a low already. I mean, we've witnessed a crash and we're still and
where a whole bunch of people that say invested in it since, for instance, the advertising push that put it at the for instance on the stadium of the Los Angeles Lakers, all those people lost their money to basically
FTX guy.
the
Sam Bankman-Fried.
criminals at
Yeah.
the top of this pump and dump.
Exactly. So the fact that this guy's Jimmy Dore here, supposedly for the everyman, for the working class, is advocating in this clip for a speculative asset that is only designed to make the people who bought a bunch of it at the beginning much wealthier by driving up the value. So here he is speaking about crypto, and also the leader of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele.
Bukele, a massive authoritarian who made a big bet on Bitcoin. Now
Exactly.
has to do some mining to make up for it.
Thank you, along with Stacy, Herbert. Thank you so much for being our guest. Max, taking time to explain what Bitcoin is all about. It's actually really important. It's not just a fun financial thing for rich guys. It's actually something that it's going to be necessary for activists. And I'm sure anybody who wants to organize against the establishment is going to need Bitcoin. And I think it's the future. And so thanks for coming on and helping everybody.
Pause it. I would ask Jimmy Dore, you know those NDAs that you make your fucking workers sign that gag them so they can't talk about explicitly your business interests? Does that have anything to do with how much crypto you hold? Do you want to disclose that? Maybe you didn't disclose when you had David Sachs come on to talk about the Silicon Valley bank run. You didn't disclose that he was also an investor in Rumble. You seem to not like disclosing these things, but maybe we should all know exactly, maybe we should have transparency of how much Bitcoin or other crypto Jimmy Dore holds.
Also, an interesting thing about him talking about Bitcoin for activists is that, in the early days, the biggest example of Bitcoin being used for that purpose was when WikiLeaks was getting cut off in after the Chelsea Manning leaks. When it was getting cut off from all these different payment processors, and they started accepting Bitcoin. And at the time, the early Bitcoin investors, and I'm pretty sure Satoshi themselves, the anonymous founder of Bitcoin, I'm pretty sure he even put out a statement. He even put out a statement saying that this is bad. We don't want WikiLeaks using Bitcoin because it's going to bring all sorts of, attention to our project, and we don't want that. So they didn't even want it to be used for activists
because they know that the state will come in. The second that it actually starts to be used for any sort of liberatory purpose, it's going to be kiboshed. And the reason it's allowed now is because it's been able to be used by scammers and people like that.
Yeah, and it exactly. And the reason that they're even pushing that line now, it is a convenient right-wing talking point in order to drive up the price of Bitcoin and get more people to get duped into it.
Oh, I can make money and be an activist somehow?
Yeah, right.
That's awesome. I'll do some activism by buying this low and selling it high.
It also just shaves off the hard right edges and the completely naked greedy edges of what we're talking about here.
I'm sure anybody who wants to organize against the establishment is going to need Bitcoin. And I think it's the future. And so thanks for coming on and helping everybody understand it. Take care, Max.
I wrote a piece on Huffington Post 8 years ago called "Bitcoin is for Activists."
Really?
Wow.
No attention.
Okay, well.
I did a piece. I've been... Anyway, we're out of time. So we'll catch up again sometime, hopefully, Jimmy.
Yes,
Is he running for president?
Okay, I'll look into El Salvador.
Yeah.
Excellent.
14 years ago, Bitcoin was founded, and we hear every single time it's criticized, you're just not looking ahead at the future. 14 years and it is yet to take a hold and actually do anything that we've been promised it was going to do.
All it's done,
AI was just launched, and you could not like it, but you can't deny that it's been involved and has had more effect on people than what crypto has had in terms of there's the people who lost a lot of money, but in terms of the promises of crypto, 14 years, none of those promises have come to fruition.
That's a great point. And I think and this is the difference between AI as an umbrella type of technology and crypto as bad technology, which is bad for a lot of reasons. But for crypto to fulfill its promises, it requires spontaneous mass adoption. Everyone has to already be using crypto more or less for it to be usable in the way that its most, fervent evangelists say it could be used. Because even if you do have crypto as an activist, you can't spend it directly anywhere really. unless you happen to be in El Salvador or a handful of other countries where people are allowed to transact in crypto more easily. At best, you might not even be able to get a fiat off ramp if the government decides to block you. Did the Canadian truckers ever get their crypto liquidated? It's
right. I recall that story. Right, they didn't know what to do with all. They got like over $1 million in crypto, and when they were asked about it, they were like, "We don't know what to do with it."
Well,
because you can't go down to the shop and buy a sandwich with it unless you happen to find the only shop in town that accepts crypto, and then they won't be accepting crypto in 2 weeks once it's
and in El Salvador, it's been an unmitigated disaster. And to Matt's point, like Bukele has been arresting people in mass.
El Salvador has the highest incarceration rate in the entire world, and
he's been getting rid of Supreme Court justices to cement his power.
He's running. He's running in 2024, which is why Max Keiser's wearing the Bukele 2024 hat in the video. But that's he's defying the El Salvadorian constitution. He cannot run again, but he's doing it anyway.
Exactly.
Also, just the way crypto works in El Salvador, it's not on some sort of transparent blockchain the same way like most Bitcoin is. It's managed by sort of a large scale, like internal, like what Chivo, I forget what the exact name of it for, but it's not transparent. Like, if you were to say, look into someone's Ethereum wallet, that's all handled centralized, like an exchange would be, like an FTX would be. So we largely just take Bukele's word for how much crypto he has, that people are like transacting in it, that exists in certain ways, which, I don't give a crap about crypto in that way, but I would think would go against the way crypto, like, true believers would want it to be used, which is a transparent anti-status device, not just like subsumed as another way for the state to take your money.
And I also just want to say...
There were protests in El Salvador when this Bitcoin law was passed, because basically it forced everyone in El Salvador to accept crypto. Like if you have a store or a shop or, a cart at the, corner of the street, you had to accept Bitcoin. Otherwise, you're breaking the law. And the problem is, they don't want to accept Bitcoin because they need US dollars. That's what they use to actually buy things at the store. And when they transfer their Bitcoin to actually get those US dollars, they get hit with all these fees. So they actually end up with less than what they would if they just said, we don't accept Bitcoin here. You have to pay with cash.
Bender, your mic, you just might want to reset it really quick. Okay. It's not too bad, but it's just crackling a little. I just want to make a point just about Dore really quickly. He gives away the game when he says to fight the establishment. I mean, this is like we're in phase whatever of his politics being so far afield of leftism that it's just laughable at this point, because the establishment can mean whatever you want it to mean. It's not about fighting the establishment. It's about fighting capital.
Bukele, the leader of the country with the highest incarceration rate on earth, is apparently anti-establishment.
Yeah, the guy in power, right? He's anti-establishment. And it's just, it's silly. It's just about like when you're an anti-establishment content creator in the way Jimmy is, it's like, I hate daddy and I've decided that daddy is this person because it fits my interests at this point, as opposed to having politics that are rooted in organized labor, in challenging the powerful, and defining the powerful not as like cultural power, but as people who have literal power, capitalists and corrupt interests in our country in particular. So for him, it's just makes it so obvious that when you're anti-establishment, that's incredibly fungible, and it's just a branding exercise.
Go ahead, Brendan.
I was just going to say, like, crypto as just a tool for understanding the actual authoritarian tendencies of American and Western libertarians is useful, because ultimately it's more concentrated in the hands of the wealthy individuals within crypto specifically, but also just generally wealthy individuals than, what they would call fiat currency is, and it's even more, the production of it is even more centralized, because in this case, like basically every country has their own currency besides like the euro, but you have largely different types of fiat currencies out there, where most Bitcoin mining is done by like a handful of companies, like 2 or 3 major ones. Like it's a very centralized like digital currency for what it is, and yet they pretend like it's somehow distinguishable from, you know, at least in terms of like its ability to lift people out of poverty despite this centralization.
Yeah, I mean, and also I just want to make the point, Jimmy Dore and Max Keiser, I've never heard of this loser before, but they're fascist fluffers, because Jimmy Dore is the kind of guy who, when there's protests in France, be like, why don't we do this in America? And then also play fucking voluntary paralegal in the media for Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah.
Massaging his goddamn feet every time like the bad news day goes his way. Like, it's
going
laughable.
after I'm pro worker, attacking teachers unions. I mean, we get we understand who he is at this point, but like the Bitcoin promotion is just another wrinkle of depravity that we just.
I mean, it points to. I mean, Bitcoin is a very appealing, like, it's a good on-ramp for this type of politics, because usually you can't lead in with like, oh, we want to support this Bukele guy who's arresting everybody, or we support Kyle Rittenhouse. So you instead do like crypto, but this is where it leads.